Okay, so someone sent us a PDF, and the title alone, I gotta say, it really caught my eye.
Oh, yeah.
How to Cure Shoulder Problems. Trust me, this will do it 90% of the time.
Wow.
Yeah, 90%. That's a pretty bold claim, right?
Jeez.
So we're diving deep today into this one source just for you, and really going to try to understand this technique, the thinking behind it, at least what they say in the PDF.
Okay.
And what this could mean for, if you're dealing with shoulder issues, like, the stiffness, discomfort.
Sure.
That can be so frustrating.
Absolutely.
I mean, my first reaction when I saw that 90% claim, I raised an eyebrow, a healthy dose of skepticism. I think it's like, okay, let's see about this.
Yeah.
So what is this core exercise that we're looking at here?
Well, we have this single document outlining a very specific movement.
Okay.
And it claims to address a large percentage of shoulder problems.
Mm-hmm.
The exercise centers around using a large towel rolled up tightly.
Okay. Or ideally, a longer broomstick without the bristles.
Okay, so a towel or a broomstick.
Mm-hmm. And the absolute key here, and they emphasize this repeatedly, is to keep your arms completely straight throughout the entire repetition.
Oh, wow.
So you start with a wide grip on the towel or the broomstick, holding it in front of your thighs, standing.
Okay, so wide grip, straight arms, starting at the front of the legs. I got it.
Yes.
All right, so what's the movement? What am I doing?
So from that starting position, maintaining those straight arms.
Okay.
You lift the towel or the broomstick up and over your head, continuing the movement down and behind you until it reaches the middle of your back.
Okay.
And then, this is crucial, still keeping your arms locked straight.
Oh, wow.
You reverse the motion back up and over your head to the starting position in front of your thighs.
So front to overhead to back and
exactly.
the back to the front.
Precisely.
That's one rep.
One repetition, yes.
And they're saying to do 50 of these.
Aim for 50. Oh my goodness.
Each session.
50 reps with perfectly straight arms. I'm just picturing that makes my shoulders feel a little tight.
I know, it sounds...
And they even say this isn't supposed to be easy, right? They describe it as...
It's supposed to be painful in a stretching pump kind of way.
Yeah.
And then eventually it becomes incredibly painful pump-wise.
Wow, so this sounds like it requires some grit, listener.
Oh, yeah. Definitely designed to challenge the shoulder joint and the surrounding muscles.
Yeah.
And they also really emphasize performing the movement in a controlled and slow manner.
So it's not about momentum.
Not at all.
It's about...
deliberate, full-range movement.
Even if it's uncomfortable.
Even if it's uncomfortable in the beginning, yeah.
They specifically warn against that quick, uncontrolled motion.
They do, yes.
Okay, now, what if I'm trying this and my hands keep slipping on the towel, or my arms just instinctively want to bend?
Okay.
I mean, they address that in the PDF, right?
They do.
What do they say?
If you experience your hands slipping, even with a wide grip, or if you can't resist bending your arms as you try to move overhead, they suggest this indicates significant lack of flexibility in your shoulders.
Okay.
And they encourage persistence in trying to maintain that straight arm form.
Right.
But they do offer a practical solution.
Okay.
If the inflexibility is severe, simply using a longer broomstick can make the movement more achievable.
At least initially.
Yes, initially.
Okay, so the exercise itself is demanding, but it is straightforward in its description?
It is.
Okay, but now there's something that seems to be the real key to progress here, and that is adjusting the grip.
Yes.
Tell me more about that. Why is that so important?
So this progressive narrowing of the grip is really presented as the cornerstone of this method's effectiveness. The idea is over time, you gradually move your hands closer together on the towel or the broomstick. And the suggested time frame for this inward adjustment is around 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay, 2 to 4 weeks of moving that grip in.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the payoff for all this? What should someone expect to see or feel as they're doing this?
Well, they claim that this progressive grip change leads to a significant increase in how far you can move your shoulder.
Okay.
And a resolution of impingement.
Yeah.
Which is often characterized by pain when lifting your arm due to compression of tendons in the shoulder joint.
Right.
And most other shoulder problems.
Okay.
All within about 2 weeks of consistently using this technique.
Wow.
Especially that grip adjustment.
Okay, so 2 weeks is the magic number.
Seems to be.
They're claiming big results in 2 weeks.
That's what they say.
That's a pretty compelling promise.
Yeah.
And they even give a specific way to approach this grip adjustment during a single set of those 50 reps.
Yes, they do.
So tell me about that. How are they suggesting people do this?
So the recommendation is to start with a slightly wider, more manageable grip for the first 10 repetitions as a warm-up.
All right, so 10 reps just to kind of get loose.
Yeah, we get the blood flowing.
Yeah.
Then for the next 20 repetitions, you actively try to move your grip inward by about 1 centimeter.
Wow.
Around the 30 rep mark, you attempt to narrow it by another centimeter.
So you're really pushing into that stretch.
You are, once the muscles are warm.
Once the muscles are a bit warmed up.
Yes.
Now, the PDF doesn't, really go into a deep dive on the biomechanics.
It doesn't.
But based on what's described, what can we infer about why this specific exercise, and especially that progressive grip change, might be so effective for shoulder issues?
So if we look at it from a biomechanical perspective, this straight arm, large range of motion movement is likely designed to improve the flexibility of the shoulder joint capsule and the surrounding muscles.
So which muscles are we talking about here?
Well, this includes the rotator cuff, the deltoids, and even the muscles of the upper back and chest.
Wow. So a lot of
muscles involved. And the progressive narrowing of the grip inherently increases the demand on internal rotation and adduction of the shoulder as you move overhead and behind your back.
Yeah.
And these are often the movements that are limited in individuals with shoulder problems.
Right.
So by gradually challenging the joint in these specific ways, you're essentially encouraging it to adapt and regain mobility in those restricted areas.
So you're kind of forcing it to get more flexible.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
And also the repeated movement likely increases blood flow to the area. The PDF even mentions the shoulders blowing up with so much blood.
Yeah, they use very colorful language in this PDF.
They do.
Okay, so lots of blood flow, which is good.
Increased circulation can support healing and tissue repair.
Okay.
So that progressive grip adjustment is key to continuously challenge the shoulder in a way that promotes greater range of motion.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like you said, you're gradually increasing that stretch over time.
You are.
Now, the author of this PDF also throws in another recommendation, something to use in addition to this exercise.
Right.
What is that?
So they suggest using a menthol rub liberally on a daily basis and before going to sleep, particularly if you're dealing with shoulder or bicipital tendinitis, which is an inflammation of the tendon connecting the bicep muscle to the shoulder.
Yeah.
Well, the PDF doesn't explain why. We know that menthol creates a cooling sensation that can provide temporary pain relief, which could make it easier to perform the exercise consistently.
Yeah.
And might also help with any discomfort experienced afterward.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
And there was a picture mentioned in the original post that was supposed to show the starting position.
Right.
What did that illustrate, and what important clarification did the text provide?
So the picture was intended to show the initial position, holding the broomstick with a wide grip in front of the body.
Right.
However, the author made a point of clarifying that the drawing only showed the beginning of the movement.
Okay.
It's really important to understand that the exercise involves a broomstick traveling all the way up and over the head and then all the way back to the middle of the back.
Got it.
Which might not have been fully clear from that initial visual.
So full range of motion, even if the picture didn't illustrate that completely.
The full arc of the movement is crucial.
Okay, now, while the tone of this PDF is very confident, it does include a seemingly small but very significant instruction.
Yes.
That feels like an inherent word of caution.
Absolutely.
What is that?
The repeated instruction to perform everything carefully, slowly is a critical point, considering the potential intensity of the stretch and the high number of repetitions.
50 reps.
Doing the exercise in a controlled manner is vital to minimize any risk of injury.
Yeah.
Especially when you're first starting out. Or as you're progressively narrowing your grip.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's bring it all together. For you, listener, based on this PDF, what are the core elements of this DoggCrapp method
Interesting name.
for tackling shoulder problems?
So the core involves a specific exercise done with a towel or ideally a broomstick, where you maintain completely straight arms throughout.
Straight arms the whole time?
The whole time.
Okay.
You perform 50 repetitions of moving the implement from your front up and over down to your mid-back, and then back to the start.
Yep.
And this is recommended once a day, preferably in the evening, and as many days a week as you can manage.
So as often as possible.
As often as possible.
And the real driver of change, according to this PDF, is that progressive grip adjustment.
Absolutely. The key is to gradually bring your hands closer together on the towel or broomstick over 2 to 4 weeks.
2 to 4 weeks.
Even trying to narrow your grip during the 50 repetitions themselves.
During the set?
During this set.
Okay.
This continuous challenge to your shoulders' range of motion is presented as the secret to increasing flexibility and resolving issues like impingement and other common shoulder problems.
And they're saying big results, relatively short period of time.
Yeah, that's the claim made in the source.
It's also important to acknowledge, I mean, the author is very direct about this exercise, being uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
They have a very colorful way of putting it.
Yes, they do.
That "fuck you, Dante" line.
Yes.
It speaks volumes, I think.
It really does.
So consistent effort in pushing through some initial discomfort
seems to be key.
Are likely necessary to see the claimed benefits.
Right.
So for you, listener, who reached out curious about this very bold claim,
90%.
Yeah, 90%. This deep dive has provided a detailed breakdown of a very specific area. And according to the source, potentially very effective technique for addressing shoulder issues. It's a method that hinges on consistent, controlled movement through a full range of motion with a strong emphasis on gradually increasing the challenge by narrowing your grip.
And that brings us to a final thought for you to consider.
Okay.
Given this method's intense focus on movement, progressive stretching, and expanding the range of motion in your shoulders, it prompts the question, what other areas of your body that might be experiencing stiffness or limited movement could potentially benefit from a similar, dedicated, and progressively challenging approach to exercise and stretching?
So thinking about other areas where this kind of approach might be helpful.
Yeah. Perhaps exploring those connections could be a valuable next step in your journey towards greater overall mobility and well-being.
I love it. I think that's a great place to leave it.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks.
See you next time.
See you later.